In this edition of Southern Newsweek, Invercargill celebrates a Burt Munro anniversary, Wanaka children get to play in the snow, Shadow Creek Tavern hosts its annual dog bite competition. Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. Scientists at the University of Otago have used DNA to debunk the idea that a particular species of penguin in Australia ever existed. The South today went to the Department of Zoology to find out more.
Tasmania's Hunter Island penguin was described in 1983 following the discovery of a few semi-fossilised bones. But there has always been some scepticism as to whether it was for real. Dr. Nick Rawlins was part of the team, led by PhD student Tess Cole, that used DNA to confirm that the bones had been misidentified and the Australian Hunter Island penguin never existed.
What we've discovered is the latest trans-Tasman identity shock. So just like certain Australian politicians that have discovered they have dual identity, what we've discovered is that the extinct Hunter Island penguin from Tasmania is actually partly Kiwi. So rather than being a distinct genus and species of penguin, we've worked out, quite surprisingly, it's 3 species of living penguin. So it turned out to be the Australian little blue penguin, and we've got some Australian little blue penguin bones here. So this is a humerus, the upper arm bone. And the other species it ended up being was the Tawaki, the Fiordland crested penguin, and the Snares crested penguin. And we've got some bones here to illustrate that as well.
Dr. Rawlins says that DNA technology is revolutionising scientific research, but it still needs to be backed up by studying the morphology of animal bones as well.
So DNA is not going to completely replace morphology. So we need to, whenever we do these projects with ancient DNA and we discover things don't exist, or we discover new species like the Poa or the Kohatu shag, is we need to relate that back to morphology. If we just go off DNA, we are overestimating or underestimating the amount of biodiversity.
Dr. Rawlins says it was understandable how the mistake in identification happened, considering the limited technologies available in the 1980s. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
And now on to penguins that do exist. A small but enthusiastic group of Balclutha residents dressed in penguin suits to highlight the plight of the flightless birds.
A protest march was held down the main street of Balclutha in support of the critically endangered yellow-eyed penguin. 9 members of Forest and Bird donned yellow-eyed penguin costumes and marched from St Andrew's Presbyterian Church to the Balclutha Eye Site and back, with one member dressed in their penguin costume on a hospital bed. Funeral music was played during the procession to highlight the critical situation that the native birds found themselves in. Forest and Bird South Otago branch chairman Roy Johnston said the protest march was to bring awareness to the reduced population numbers of the yellow-eyed penguin. He believed the community needed to rally to try and save them from extinction. There are several small breeding colonies of the birds along the coast, but the main one was based at Long Point in the Catlins, where Forest and Bird carried out predator control and monitoring. Statistics indicated that the penguin populations could be gone from the mainland by 2060 if nothing was done to protect them. Mr. Johnston also said that there had been 2 major starvation incidents in the past 10 years which had affected population numbers. Mr. Johnston wanted a marine reserve at Long Point so as to protect the birds' main source of food. Mr. Johnston was happy with the march but would have liked if more people were out in the town as it took place. I'm Samuel White for The South Today.
The 50th anniversary of Burt Munro's world record motorcycle ride at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah is to be celebrated in Invercargill this Saturday. In preparation for the celebration, a replica of Munro's Indian motorcycle was removed from its glass cabinet this week and taken for a spin. Sharon Rees has more.
It was calm days like this that made a reedy beach the prime spot for Burt Munro to test his motorbikes. And 50 years on from his under 1000cc world record, the fastest Indian replica is at it again.
Today we're out here just doing a bit of a dummy run on the beach to celebrate Burt Munro's 50th anniversary on the Salt Lakes some years ago. So we're out at his old haunting ground where he used to practice and learn all his trades.
The bike was taken for some test runs by Winteringham's daughter Francie in preparation for the 50th anniversary street parade on Saturday week. She said she was still becoming familiar with the bike.
So far pretty good. We've only done 2 runs, but at the moment it's going alright. First run was a wee bit sketchy. It's very loose. The sand is not as firm as you think. So you just catch in the track and you go off with it. So yeah, faster you go the better it is. So aiming for that.
A film crew from the Southern Institute of Technology assisted the Winteringhams as they filmed a promo for the celebrations. Francie, who has been racing motorbikes for 11 years, says the different style of bike can make riding a lot more difficult.
This is the second time I've ridden it. The first time I rode it had no fairing on it or shell, so it was a lot freer and you knew what you were doing, but this is the first time I've ridden it with the shell on it, so you're way closed in and it's a little bit more nervy.
It was planned that the fastest Indian replica would race at a reedy beach as part of celebrations, but the event has been cancelled. The bike, however, will be ridden during the Burt Munro Street Parade. I'm Sharon Rees for The South Today.
Patients at Dunedin Hospital were encouraged to step out of their pyjamas and beds last week. Sit Up, Get Dressed and Keep Moving is an initiative by the Southern District Health Board which aims to minimise the impact of being bedbound while in hospital.
Pyjama-clad Southern District Health Board staff stepped up to spread the movement message this morning at Dunedin Hospital.
What we're trying to achieve from this program is encouraging patients to get up and get dressed and keep moving, because we know that it improves their health outcomes in the end, and sitting around in pyjamas all day in hospital is not good for them.
Sit Up, Get Dressed and Keep Moving encourages patients to avoid unnecessary bed rest, which can lead to reduced muscle strength, increased risk of falls, reduced mobility and loss of confidence.
We've had a bit of a drive today and we've tried to encourage staff to wear pyjamas just to see how they feel, how vulnerable it makes them feel, because we know there's a lot of evidence that patients don't get up and move around in hospital in pyjamas because they feel a little bit awkward because of what they're wearing and a bit vulnerable.
The initiative is part of the Releasing Time to Care program being rolled out to increase the amount of time clinical staff spend with patients, and links to a social media campaign led by Professor Brian Dolan, which encourages patients to wear clothes and remain active in hospital.
So thinking about how we bring people into hospital, what we do with them during their journey, and then how we get them discharged again.
The Southern DHB says every 10 days of bed rest in hospital can lead to the equivalent of 10 years of muscle ageing in people aged over 80 years. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
Still to come after the break, we have a singing competition held in Dunedin, and Wanaka children get a chance to play in the snow without leaving town. Thanks for staying with Southern Newsweek. This week, Cadbury Confectionery's parent company, Mondelez International, committed to a $7 million redevelopment of Cadbury World. The multinational company says it will create 25 new permanent roles. However, the company admits that around 300 shift work positions will be lost with the closure of the factory at the end of the year. Daryl Baser went for a tour.
A bright, shiny new visitor attraction which aims to create 25 new jobs. Mondelez International's country head James Kane says the roles will be offered to the 350 factory workers who will be out of jobs when the factory closes at the end of the year.
Yeah, we'd like to think that that's possible, and certainly we've had some initial conversations to that end. So the 25 roles will make them available firstly to our factory staff, and hopefully we can fill all of them in that way, and if not, they'll be opened up more broadly beyond that. But certainly first dibs will be with our fantastic factory team.
Kane says the $7 million expansion of Cadbury World will show how chocolate used to be made in the city. He also says the week-long Cadbury Carnival will dissipate into charity events throughout the year.
Effectively we've got a bit of a blueprint for the sorts of events that are successful at raising funds for our charity partners and community partners. So we're going to work with the Cadbury World team here who've been doing that for the last 17 years, and also local community stakeholders to work out what are the right events to run, when should we run them, and how do we have the most positive impact on the community, both through the donations that we're able to generate, but also by creating real excitement and tourism into the city.
Walking through the old dairy building with the company's site manager Judith Mayer, she explains what the public can expect from the new facility.
We'll open into an area that is all reset and filled with cocoa beans, so that again, that whole concept of from the bean to the bar, we can take all of our visitors on that full journey and show them what chocolate's all about. We're then looking at a totally digital interpretive tunnel coming through here again, so we can be in a cocoa plantation in Ghana, we can be in a sugarcane plantation in Queensland, we can take people on a journey of ingredients and have a whole lot of education around that.
The company says it's their intention that the Jaffa race will continue to be run. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
The Dunedin Performing Arts and Competition Society and a warm audience welcomed more than 60 competitors to the junior vocal competition last weekend. This year marks the 70th competition with events held at St John's Anglican Church in Roslyn. Roselle Labone was there.
The sights and sounds of young vocalists giving it their all.
Taking lessons for about 10 years now.
Just trying to relax and feel confident when going on stage, because it can be quite nerve-wracking.
This weekend, St John's Anglican Church in Roslyn was packed with performers aged 7 to 20 for the 70th annual junior vocal competition. The sound of the bell signalled it was another young competitor's time in the spotlight. And while it's not X Factor, convener Claire Barton says the adjudicator knows what sets some performers apart.
Some of them go into pop music, some of them go into country music. It really is a broad range of possibilities. And even those that don't go on to be performing singers, they learn skills here that they will use in their workplace.
Some competitors brought their families along. This young performer, at just 14, won his section and was the third brother in his family to be singing at the competitions this year.
This is my first time singing with a broken voice though for these comps.
Despite the friendly competition between singers, the collegial atmosphere was apparent and even the most nervous transformed during their 15 minutes of fame. Roselle Labone, The South Today.
Wanaka Airport received a big dump of snow last weekend, but not from the sky. 2 piles of snow were transported by truck from Cadrona Alpine Resort to the airport and dropped on the grassy area in front of the Warbirds and Wheels Cafe. The impromptu winter wonderland was the idea of the cafe's barista, who learned there were Wanaka children who had not had the chance to play in snow up in the mountains this year. More than 50 children and their parents took advantage of the delivery. Tuesday saw an open day for disabled school children being held in South Dunedin. Pupils and their parents were able to find out about the options they will have after they leave school. Rudy Adrian went to find out more.
Today was an opportunity for both disabled school kids and their parents to learn about the transition from school into adulthood and the workplace. Simon McCosh from Community Care Trust was one of the organisers of the event.
It's important for families and whānau to get all the information they need. Often they've been in the education bubble with their children for a long time, and they're venturing into the world of disability support services, which can be quite terrifying. And yeah, it's an ever-changing landscape, so we're trying to create a one-stop shop so they can ask all the questions they can and meet and greet as many providers as they can.
Debbie Webster said the range of disability services on offer is wide and varied.
If people are empowered when they have information, they can make choices. So it's about letting people know what's out there, and often a lot of social services are quite siloed because of their funding, whether it's work and income, or whether it's health, or whether it's education. So for people to sort of have all these agencies here at one time, that they can literally go and it helps them join the dots.
McCosh says it's important to start informing parents and pupils well before they leave school.
We don't want to just catch the kids that are in their last year of school or even year 12. The earlier you start planning for after school, the better. So even year 9, 10, students starting to have those discussions then.
It's hard enough for anyone these days to get a job, and Debbie Webster agrees that barriers to employment certainly exist.
It's it's a hard one. I mean, there's no point messing around with that. There isn't a lot of employment opportunities, but partly it's a mindset. It's about whether people are willing to let people have an opportunity to get past those social barriers of disability, and actually put the person first.
The Community Care Trust organises this open day every year and encourages both pupils and parents to attend. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Coming up after the break, we look at a Queenstown campground that makes extensive use of solar energy, and a dog bark competition has been held at Chateau Creek this weekend. Welcome back. Kia Scouts in Ashburton have been busy making the Riverside a cleaner and more tidier place. The South Today was there to film the Scouts in action.
The Ashburton Kia Scout Group have been busy after school collecting rubbish along the sides of the Ashburton River. A dozen enthusiastic youngsters trawled the river track between Mania Oroto Scout Den and Tinwold Bridge, armed with black plastic bags and gloves. Group leader Julie Hollings said the work counted towards their badges.
Today we are picking up rubbish as part of a cornerstone towards their gold, silver and bronze badges. They are very enthusiastic about doing this activity. We've picked up an awful lot of rubbish of all sorts.
The Ashburton Council supplied the rubbish bags, and the discarded items spanned quite a variety, including bottles, cans, general litter and even a wheel hub. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
A Queenstown holiday park is charging ahead of others sourcing electricity from the sun. The Creekside holiday park owners have spent $50,000 on photovoltaic solar panels to provide electricity for campers. Mena Amso has the story.
Creekside Holiday Park owners Tony and Erna Spiker Bosch enjoy the odd smoked salmon, cooked slightly differently.
Well, basically it's an evacuated tube, very much like what you would use for solar hot water heating, only instead of having the copper tube inside for heating water, it's got the stainless steel tray. We can put any food we want into it and cook it there.
For 30 years they've been using the sun to heat the camp's hot water, but now to make the camp even greener, they have taken another innovative step.
And it just keeps our power bill within more acceptable expenditure range.
The 68 photovoltaic solar panels have been trialled for 6 weeks alongside traditional electricity sourced from the grid.
We're using electricity all day long while the sun is shining, because we have the laundry going, we have underfloor heating topping itself up during the day while the sun shines, and we make use of every kilowatt hour that we produce rather than selling it back to the grid.
It's 1:30 in the afternoon and there's about 30 odd camper vans parked, and they all are being connected to this power source which is coming from the solar panels installed. The panels produce between 50 to 60 kilowatts hours each day during winter. Guests will, however, continue to be charged the same rates for using camp electricity.
We can maintain the prices much better and more competitively.
Wanaka environmental consultant Morgan Kineson says photovoltaic panels do give value for money.
When you buy the panels, that
that value of the panels is paid back almost 3 times over the life of the panels. So basically, you're cheating the power companies by producing your own power.
As well, campground managers are also considering the installation of a fast charger at their holiday park to cater for guests driving electric cars. Mina Amso, The South Today.
At present, cats which die on the roads are simply collected by council and put in a landfill. However, a Dunedin woman is lobbying the City Council to have deceased cats scanned so their owners can have some closure. Daryl Baser has a story.
Currently in Dunedin, when a cat is found dead on the road and a member of the public calls the DCC, a contractor is dispatched and the cat's body is disposed of in the city's landfill.
In regards to deceased cats and the DCC's part in it, my hope is that they do scan for microchips in order to reunite any lost pets to distressed owners.
Dunedin resident Rachel Steadman's cat went missing around a week ago. And like many pet owners, she made a flyer and posted them around her neighbourhood. She also contacted the council.
I did lose my little pussycat last week, so she'd been gone for a week, and it did get me thinking about how useful her microchip actually was.
Steadman is a member of the Otago Student Animal Legal Defence Fund and supports the DCC's approach to local government New Zealand about microchipping cats.
The council has lobbied and made a proposal to local government New Zealand in regards to receiving a statutory power so that they can actually enforce cat management in Dunedin in regards especially to microchipping and perhaps something like a restriction on amount of cats per household.
She says the scanners are inexpensive at $250. And she says many owners never have the closure of knowing what happened to their loved animal.
Absolutely. Well, the DCC has recognised that there is interest in microchipping, that this is a reflection of responsible cat ownership in particular.
However, Steadman's story took a happy turn as she found little Pearl yesterday.
My cat did return to me after spending a week in a roof space making no noise at all, and I came home yesterday and found her in the neighbour's roof space in the garage.
She says her public petition to the DCC asking them to scan cats which have been killed on the road has attracted more than 530 supporters in the first few days. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
The Moscow Ballet is getting a new production manager and he's from Invercargill. John Hodges has been working behind the scenes of the biggest productions in Invercargill for almost 13 years, but has left to fulfil his dreams. Sharon Rees caught up for a chat.
John Hodges leaves the Invercargill Civic Theatre for one of the last times. Over the next 3 years, he'll be mostly on the road as a production manager, with one of his clients being the Moscow Ballet. Other big international artists will also be his clients, providing Hodges with the job he's dreamed of.
Never ever thought it would ever happen. It's happened, so I'm making the best of it. As my children have said to me, Dad, you're on your own, you might as well go and enjoy life.
He'll be joining the Moscow Ballet's La Classique tour for the 3rd time next year, where he's already been dubbed Camp Mother.
If we're on the eastern side of Australia and then we're going to the western side, one of us will fly ahead 4 days beforehand. If I'm on this side, will stay with the tour group of 38 and do all the stuff in the theatre with them. I'm also the follow spot operator of the ballet as well, so I get up in the follow spot and still cook and still do everything else and put birthday cakes together.
Although his title has been theatre technician, John has been a jack of all trades at this theatre for the past 13 years.
I built a lot of gear for here, did a lot of the shows that come through, sound and lighting. Also on top of that, helped a lot of productions do their shows. When they come in, they weren't sure what they were doing, so I would guide them through everything and make the show successful at the end of it.
John will join Scottish singer Isla Grant's Australian tour at the start of next month and won't return home to visit for another 3 months. I'm Sharon Rees for The South Today.
Shadow Creek Tavern in Central Otago will be the scene of an unusual contest this weekend. The 30th annual Dog Bark Up event will see dog owners encouraging their dogs to bark. The South Today checked out one of the aspiring entrants.
It could well be mayhem at Shadow Creek Tavern this weekend for the 30th annual Dog Bark Up event. The dogs are put on a table inside the tavern and encouraged to bark. If they do not bark, their owner is in for some humiliation. Shadow Creek owner Leslie Middlemass explained how the competition worked.
Competition started 30 years ago, and Bruce Duncan, Glenn's grandfather, was one of the inaugural people who decided that it should be something that happened at Shadow Creek, and it's been an icon in the community. And you bring your dogs along and they have to get up on the table and bark, and if your dogs don't bark, well, you have to get up and bark and drink spates out of a dog bowl. And sometimes that could be kind of embarrassing if you've got a really good dog.
Glenn Duncan tried to see if his dad's huntaway, named Bloke, would be up for the challenge.
Hey Bloke, speak up. Hey Bloke, speak up. Speak up, speak up, speak up, speak up, speak up.
Glenn's not too sure if this dog has the goods to see him right.
Yeah, don't know about that yet. Might have been a bit more practice.
Glenn's still got a few more days to train the dog to bark on cue. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Speak up, 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 speak.
And that's it for Southern Newsweek this week. Get online and check us out on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, or you can keep up with the Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton and thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.